bulky scuba tanks, so if you come out to do diving, you can easily get to diving. And then the hyperbaric chamber sits in this building right here. And that is a very active heliport. That's where the physicians, if there's a dive accident, will fly in on the helix here. And people are asking that I was eating with, that's where my house is. I rent this house. All of the rest of our staff live in the town of Two Harbors, except the director of the hyperbaric chamber. He lives in the dorm room. And why I say catching a snake was sort of important. I think I have that house because I'm the one expendable staff member. Everybody else is important. Directors are a dime a dozen. And since living there, we started living there full-time in 2006 for a number of years. I pulled about 8 rattlesnakes out of the house. Only the first one did I hand catch. I got a snake stick after that. They're pretty easy to catch. So what do we use this facility for? You know, facilities like this evolve over time. And the current vision of this is really to use this as a living lab. It is really about giving students that opportunity to get out of the classroom, to really get hands-on, to get activities and interactions with nature that a lot of them don't get to do. So we've begun to really flip in the last couple of years to go towards that undergraduate experiential learning model. And the lab is just unbelievable. It's pretty much unique in higher education facilities in the United States to have something like this. A lot of places have labs, but they're not Catalina. We've also recently worked with Sylvia Earle and her Hope Spots. So the Blue Cavern Point, all of this piece of the island, we've been designated as one of Sylvia Earle's Hope Spots. That really a place to preserve the marine system. So I thought I would, and by the way, keep me on time because like you can tell, I'm a professor, we talk a lot, forever. So just to give a couple of ideas, and please also feel free to interrupt if you want more information. I thought I would start with some of the research that's going on. You know, USC is an R1 university. It's really important to do the research as well. And basically what we try to do is these sort of cross-cutting initiatives. Something that's not just about what I did, which is study Vibrio cholera to the max, and that's it. But instead look at how society and environment and humanities all sort of are interacting. So we have cross-cutting initiatives from the Balmer Foundation on climate and carbon management. And this is really about decarbonizing, but not necessarily decarbonizing in a new technology or separately in trying to get people to adopt new technologies, but really in that interface, to really take what USC has that's special, this huge, diverse faculty, and bring them together and looking at problems differently. If anybody wants to get me going, talk to me later, and I'll tell you the real meaning of the carrot and the stick parable. And it's not about using a stick or using a carrot. It's about putting a carrot on the end of the stick, taking something and inventing something completely different to get to what you want. And that's what I've always talked about when I talk to the students about what we're doing. It is the carrot and the stick, but it's the carrot and the stick the way it's meant to be used. We also have big projects right now with the future of plastics. This is both, again, with society and with science. Not trying to tease those two apart, but to bring them together. The Institute itself can also change directions. We can give out about $50,000 in research dollars to faculty when they come to us and they say, hey, I've got a really cool idea, but in order to get things funded, you often have to have not just a cool idea, but preliminary data to show that the cool idea is real. $50,000 can get that preliminary data for them to take that and go to the Department of Energy or to the National Science Foundation and get full funding. Some of these sample projects that we're talking about, the blue carbon, this is actually led by a microbiologist. So I didn't have anything to do with the picking of this project, but it's actually looking at how well the salt marshes actually sequester carbon out of the environment, because the bacteria there are really, bacteria in general are really good at growing very, very fast. that growth is sucking atmospheric carbon out. So they're working in Upper Newport Bay, in the salt marshes up there, to say how effective do these salt marshes sequester carbon, and simultaneously working with what is the best messaging to save salt marshes, if that's what we need to do. It's not just one or the other. Again, it's bringing them together. And then a cool one that's just started is this idea of phytomining, plant mining. And this is using sunflowers to actually sequester heavy metals out of contaminated soils. So sunflowers will grow, they have transporters that will bring cadmium and other heavy metals into the biomass. That sucks that cadmium out of the soil, then you can cut that plant down and remove the cadmium from the plant. These have been used to clean Superfund sites where you have near surface contaminations of metals. But the hope is in the near term future to actually flip this a little bit to say these plants are really efficient at getting this. For those metals that we need to mine, is this another mechanism to get those metals out? Let nature work for us. You know, the other thing we need to do, of course, in the research is really train that next generation of researchers. Getting the graduate students the best head start they can get going out into the field. And with this, the Wrigley Institute has a graduate fellows program. These students are not scientists or social scientists or humanities. They're selected from all of them. This year's cohort, we have 8 different departments represented, so students from 8 different departments in that, including natural, social, and the humanities. You're still a graduate student, you still really do have to graduate, and to graduate you have to get your project done. But what we've done is brought these people together to bring a cohort activity together. So they meet every month to every 3 weeks during the semester. They get to have dinner with speakers that talk to them about careers in the government, careers in NGOs, careers outside of the ivory tower, because a lot of students want to go that direction. And faculty members like myself are not the best at training that. So that's what we've sort of do. They get these leadership dinners, they get field trips, and then at the end of the year, well, at the beginning and the end of the year, they get to spend the weekend out on Catalina, meeting their other cohorts, so that natural scientists are talking to the humanities and figuring out where their projects can actually interact. What I really love is what we're able to do now with our education programs, though. And I think this is really, really fairly special. Through the Institute, with the Environmental Studies program, we are in Dornside, we have majors and minors in environmental sciences, environmental studies, environmental health, preparing students for jobs in outreach and education, consulting, the sciences, and so on. We also have a progressive master's degree, where you can get a master's degree in environmental studies in 5 years, so you do 4-year undergrad and then add a year on for a master's program. We offer scientific diving. AAUS is just the American Association of Underwater Scientists. This is science diving, so they get an opportunity to learn how to be science divers and be able to take that skill to their next career. And then we collaborate with Viterbi in this case to offer environmental data sciences. So if you think about the amount of data that comes into an environmental studies program, science program, where you may have atmospheric science, it's huge amounts of data. This is working with Viterbi, some of the best computer scientists in the world, to train students to say, what I want to do is understand the data. And it's a really unique program, as well as global security studies. And then we also just started offering an online master's program. One of the coolest things that came up out of the last couple of years is what we call the Catalina Residential College. And one of the things the college came up with since I've been there, so probably a decade or a little bit more ago, was this idea of a Maymester. A Maymester is part of your spring load, so your tuition load in the spring, but you take one less course in that semester, and then you take a course right after graduation. So you have a month-long course. I think a lot of this was pushed by the humanities. You know, why are we teaching art history out of a book when if we had this month, we could go to Europe and see and experience art history? Well, as soon as they did that, of course, the science people were like, oh, this is really cool. Now we can actually offer a class where the lab sort of continues through everything. And so we started offering myself an aquatic microbiology course, and we'd bring the students out, 16 students, me and a co-instructor, would eat and sleep, and eat and dine, and be on campus together. All of these students, and really get a chance to know them. Those students would be living together for that month. They'd really know themselves. It's a very tight cohort that would form. But we started looking at that and saying, that's great, but if we're going to move the Wrigley Institute into this model of being at the juxtaposition of social and natural and humanities, we really ought to move our mainmaster into that. So instead of having, we used to have 2 courses in sciences, an oceanography course and my microbiology course. We offered up to 5. I think we've offered 6 different ones variously. This year we have microbiology, oceanography, terrestrial ecology, and history. And instead of trying to build the cohort as the microbiologists, we worked really hard on the island to make the cohort the residential college. So the students, my micro student A will be roommates with history student A. So we break all of that up, so they're all doing that. We really work hard to, early on it works, eat with somebody new every meal. Learn and talk to somebody new. We built co-curricular courses that are just like night snorkels, but instead of the night snorkel being aquatic micro, it's 16 people from those 4 different courses all together. So they have that shared experience. And they've seen sea turtles out there, and you hear them in the morning talking about seeing the sea turtles across the groups. We have weekly plenary addresses, so we bring in a big name person and that we try to get that can address issues of all of the classes to talk to them. We've had a senator come out. My favorite was actually, if anybody knows the name, Bob Ballard. He's the discoverer of the Titanic and the hydrothermal vents in the deep ocean. He is an amazing speaker. He is absolutely charismatic. I can see why he has succeeded so well. But he's talking about oceanography. He talks about, they now go out and look for history through the finding of the shipwrecks, as well as mapping where the sea surface was, 20 or 25,000 years ago to look for new native sites that have since been underwater. It's an amazing, amazing trip for these students, and it is life-altering to them. And I think we've really, dialed it in, and I will say the college loves us. The first year we did this, I'll admit, wanted the deans to come out and say, okay, I'll bring out the dean of life sciences from Dornsife, the undergraduate education dean, and they're going to see how busy the campus is, and they get off the boat, and I meet them, and realize I look around, it's just like, almost like UPC. Campus is empty. Because everybody out there is in Mainmaster. All of them are somewhere. We did have some students in the water at the port. My class was with their other instructor in some tide pools. Others were in classrooms. It's like, okay, Emily, really, it's busy. And then lunch happens. And just like at UPC, if you've ever been there, all the undergrads come out of their classrooms and swarm the food places. That's what we have. And so it was really good. And this has also expanded into a July semester. It's a little bit smaller. We only offer 3 courses in July. We're busier in research. But in this, it's water and soil, sustainability, as well as energy sustainability, and then a creative writing poetry class. So you bring the poets out, and they really embed. They would go with the classes, the soil and water class, and do their sort of field work, and then write their poetry on it. It was really, really special. We've also put in, one thing to help our students out is to give them real world skills, right? If you're coming out of an undergrad, a lot of people have a lot of, I'll say it, book skills, but not, skills with pipette or PCR machines. So we put together this idea of weekend workshops for USC students, where you come out to the island for 2 or 3 days over the weekend, on Friday through Sunday or Saturday and Sunday, and learn biological oceanography or California naturalist training to give you some real skills. It's not about learning something classroomy new, but like, how does a pipette work? How does a thermal cycle work? What do you do as a naturalist? Beyond the island, like I said, I have to go to the rest of the institute as well. We also offer spring breaks, so you can get into a careers spring break. What careers are out there in sustainability? You're an environmental studies major. What are the jobs that you can have? So we end up touring around LA to nonprofits and companies, talking with their chief sustainability officers, and saying, this is what careers are, and this is really where you should be going, what you should be doing if that's what you want. We also have like standalone field trips to industries. We have a board of trustees. We have a large recycling, president of a large recycling company. He brings the students out. They crush cars. He loves doing it. The kids love it. I actually think it's pretty cool. So they get that kind of an opportunity through the institute. And this year we offered a new course. Joe Arbai actually taught this one in psychology, decision making for sustainability. And it's a course that basically you tour around places in LA, like the LA Zoo, and then for spring break, you go up to Switzerland, which is I think what Joe wanted to teach this class. You go to Switzerland and see these same industries and how Europe is dealing with the same problems that America is dealing with. And they deal with them differently. We also offer internships. We fundraise to get undergraduate interns. We don't want people having unpaid interns. We have REU, is a National Science Foundation research experience for undergrads. And that's nationally. We'll bring students from across the US, about 8 of them, out to LA, most to the island, as well as Zinsmeier, who is a donor for us that does the same program, but just for USC students. And they're trained the entire summer doing a real undergraduate, a real research project. And this is exactly what got me into Rita Caldwell's lab, and frankly, got me to where I am today. So we're trying to get that same experience both nationally through the National Science Foundation and to the USC students. We also put students into companies and such for a summer internship, and we pay them so that they don't have to. So the LA Zoo, the Catalina Island Conservancy, and so on, will take a USC student. They'll work this summer for them, getting paid through Wrigley. And this is just sort of a quick video on that. These opportunities do lead to greater than the sum of their parts. So hopefully.
I'm Jones, and I'm an art MFA here at USC.
My name's Julianne Panahol. I am a grad student here at USC, and I was a Wrigley Fellow last year.
I was engaged with scientists and science at a very young age. I noticed that there was a deficit in the science-art intersection, and with that I wanted to pursue engaging with science in a more visual way. The exhibition Runoff deals with environmental mark making. This body of work uses a 19th century photographic process called salt printing.